Are Tennessee home prices falling in 2023? What you need to know right now. Now that we're into 2023 and coming out of the holiday slowdown, we thought it'd be a good time to take a look and see how 2022 finished up and see how the new year's shaping up. We'll take a deep dive into the numbers and see how the interest rate hike and the jump in home prices has affected our market in Northeast Tennessee in particular, but also statewide and nationwide to give you an idea of how we're doing versus the rest of the U.S. Before we get into the numbers, know that this isn't the first market shift I've seen. I started in real estate full-time in 2007, and I've seen several slowdowns, a big-time crash, some relatively good times, then that crazy seller's market we went through over the past 2 to 3 years. No one can say that they know for sure what the future holds, but based on my past experience and the research that's available now, I'll do my best to give you a prediction of what we can expect in our Tennessee housing market in 2023 as an agent with boots on the ground daily. There is really just one economic concept that determines the price of homes: supply and demand. A lot of things affect supply and demand, of course, but that's the overarching reason for home prices being where they're at. So we're going to start with demand and then we'll get into supply in a bit. So what is affecting housing supply and where does it stand right now? Two things have reduced demand over the past year: mortgage rate increases and the rapid appreciation of home prices. For those buyers borrowing money, the payment they had budgeted for last year now buys them significantly less home, and that's hurting demand. Some people are either discouraged and waiting to see if the rates drop or have changed their plans altogether. I'm recording this video in the third week of January 2023, and according to Freddie Mac, the average 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is currently 6.33%. Rates have been slowly falling since the second week in November, where they peaked at 7.08, which is the highest it had been since 2002. That's after a long period of mortgage rates in the 2.8 to 3.5% range. This recent quick run-up in rates has caused quite a shock to the real estate market. The Feds need to slow down the inflation. Unfortunately, that hits the real estate market first. The Federal Reserve raised their interest rates by 4% in 2022, and another 0.75% increase is expected during this year, 2023, according to the experts. As an aside, know that the Federal Reserve interest rate is only indirectly tied to mortgage rates. Overall, if the Federal Reserve raises rates, due to market forces, mortgage rates often increase as well, but there are other factors at play. A good example of this is the fact that the 30-year mortgage rates have fallen roughly 0.75% over the past 2 months, and then there's been no change in the Fed's rate. Let me give you an example of how mortgage rates has affected buyers. Someone buying a $300,000 home in January of 2022 that put 20% down and locked in at a 3.8% rate on their 30-year loan might have paid about $1,350 a month. Now, I'm making some assumptions on property taxes and insurance. Fast forward to January of 2023, and that same purchase would cost them around $1,724 every month, or $1,844 if you'd bought back when rates were at their max in November. That's a $400 or $500 jump in your payment. There have been more than one first-time home buyers we were working with that had to pull out of the market just because of affordability. The mortgage rate pushed them out of contention. The second thing slowing down the demand for houses is their price. Even some of the cash buyers have second thoughts when they see they aren't getting as much bang for the buck as they used to. Some of these cash buyers are waiting out the market to see where it goes long term, which reduces demand. Now let's look at home prices nationally and how they've jumped. If you look at the average sales price of homes sold in the U.S. in 2021, prices increased 23% between the third quarter of 2021 and the third quarter of 2022. It grew from $473,000 to just under $543,000 according to Freddie Mac. But how about the state of Tennessee? According to Redfin, the number of homes sold in Tennessee is down about 37% year over year in December, which is helping to slow down the price gains. Tennessee home prices grew 6.8% year over year in 2022. However, there are some areas that saw price decreases, while others saw big jumps as high as 57%. The numbers varied depending on the areas you might expect, but the sky-high appreciation seems to be over for the majority of the areas. But what about Northeast Tennessee, where we live? For the first time in a decade, existing home sales fell for the year in 2022, down 12% from the year before. However, prices were up 15% from 2021. The median sales price was $230,000, and that was 4.6% higher than December of 2021. So if sales are falling, why were prices still higher than a year ago? Supply. At the end of December 2022, there were 1,304 active listings in our area. That's 210 more than last year, which is a signal of the slowing market. However, 1,304 active listings is only a 1.7 month supply of inventory, and a balanced market is 5 to 7 months of inventory. We still have a long way to go in Northeast Tennessee before we hit a balanced market, and this is putting upward pricing pressure on the market. Tennessee as a whole has about 3 months of inventory. Just to give you an idea of what we're seeing here, the last 2 buyers we put under contract were competing against other offers. Don't think that the multiple offers are over and as a buyer you have the upper hand. Unfortunately, we're still in a tight market in Northeast Tennessee. The state as a whole is a bit softer with its 3 months of inventory, and it's approaching a more balanced market overall. We're beginning to see discounts off a list price and sellers dropping the price in order to sell, but that has to do more with setting the wrong list price to start with than being in a buyer's market. There's a disconnect right now between buyers and sellers. Many sellers still think they have all the power and can pretty much get their price, whether the comps support it or not, and that just really isn't true any longer. Sellers really need to price their home competitively to start with. If they do, multiple offers are still possible. However, buyers aren't competing with 10 other buyers every time they write an offer, maybe just 1 or 2 at this point. Sure, the market's softening some, but we're a long way from knocking 5% off a list price on a new listing that's priced well and thinking we're going to get a contract. So what does this mean if you're a buyer? Make sure your agent runs comps before any offer. You should expect this anyway, but it's even more important right now. Don't let that new listing that's overpriced draw you into a higher offer because you're desperate. Make sure the home is priced right. What does the 2023 market hold for us? Nationally, you'll find a whole range of predictions depending on the source. Redfin, Zillow, and the National Association of Realtors all realize that the mortgage rate increase will continue to keep sales down versus the past few years. Redfin thinks it's likely that the median U.S. sales price will drop by roughly 4% in 2023. Zillow predicts U.S. home prices will fall 1.5% during the year, while the National Association of Realtors predicts a small increase of 0.3%. That's a big difference. Tennessee continues to be one of the states with the highest inbound buyers from other states, which helps our demand stay a bit higher than many other parts of the country. And higher demand means less impact on prices. I'd expect Tennessee to hold its own this year overall, but there will be areas that were just so overpriced they might get a correction. If you look at December of 2022 and compare it to a year earlier, you'll see that the median sales price in our area has gone up nearly 4%, which is on track with the rest of the state. Northeast Tennessee is still in the strong seller's market at 1.7 months of inventory. Remember, a balanced market is closer to 6 months of inventory, and our average days on market were actually lower at the end of this year than they were the year before by 8%. My advice, if you're thinking of buying in Northeast Tennessee, don't wait on prices to fall. I'm not saying that they won't, but I think the likelihood is pretty low. Even though sales have fallen, so have new listings. In fact, the available inventory fell in December, even though sales were down. Fewer people want to give up their home, which is financed at 3%, for example, only to buy a new one at 6%. And their payment goes higher and they don't get that much better a home. So Even with a lot of equity they've built up through the years, their payment could be a lot more when it's all said and done. Building continues in the area, but it just isn't keeping up with demand. As rates stabilize and hopefully continue to fall this year, I expect demand to go back up, and that does not bode well for price drops. I personally think Northeast Tennessee and the state overall are a good bet long term. We're still coming out of the holidays, and it's a little hard to judge what the market's going to do this spring at this point, and I'm going to keep a close eye on the market every month, and if anything changes, I'll be sure to put out an update. If you're unsure about moving to Tennessee, watch this video where we'll cover the pros and cons of living here. This is Scott Henninger with the Home Team. Reach out to us if we can answer any questions or help you in any way. We're specialists in helping out-of-state buyers move to the area, and if you decide you'd like to make Tennessee home, we'd love to help.